Well, this leads this afternoon. Between October and December, nearly 300,000 people lost their jobs. This means that by the end of 2021, 7.9 people were unemployed in the country. That's a lot of people. Now, Stats SA says the country's unemployment rate has crossed over the dreaded threshold of 35%. This is the highest number we've seen since 2008. The informal sector, manufacturing and construction were the three sectors that shed the most jobs. The formal sector managed to add 143,000 jobs, while the informal sector shed 48,000 jobs. So as our unemployment numbers hit another record high, the ones most impacted are the youth of our country. Well, the Youth Employment Service is a business-led collaboration aimed at creating jobs for young people. We are joined now by Ravi Naidoo, the CEO of YES, to talk to us about ways to turn these disappointing numbers around. Ravi, a good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think let's start with your initial thoughts looking at that dreaded 35.3% coming out of Stats SA today.
Yes, well, those are very bad numbers. I think, Naledi, those are not unexpected numbers, however. So it does mean that for South Africa, having such a high level of unemployment, in fact, the world's worst, that we would need to put in place certain radical changes if we want to really deal with that situation.
Yeah, I don't know what those changes are going to be, because we've talked about this every time these Stats SA numbers come out, and we're disappointed every time they come out.
Yeah.
What are those radical changes? I mean, what do we do at this point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for South Africa, they might be quite radical, but I suppose internationally, it's very much what has worked as a formula. So I think we need to do things to promote economic growth. So some of the things we're seeing already with the president having announced the restructuring Eskom, so we can get the supply of electricity to actually keep businesses going. We need to make the changes on the spectrum to bring in data, cheaper internet, which obviously means it's very important for the digital economy going forward. And we also need to make changes on the port and rail so goods can come in and go out. All of that just means companies can become more viable. And then the second set of changes, again, not unusual internationally, but for us will be quite difficult, I think, but important, will be changes in terms of small businesses in particular, just to make it easier for them to employ people. Because even, they have a particular problem when it comes to labor regulations and just taking, so that your workers don't end up at the CCMA and all of those things.
Yeah.
You want to be able to have special dispensations, at least for those types of businesses, so they can employ. So more growth and make it easier to employ. I think there's certain changes there that we need to do just to be on par with the rest of the world. I think that will create a very positive environment. And then obviously there are a number of special programs that we need to undertake. So things for youth or particular groups that are especially vulnerable or have special needs.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those groups that are particularly vulnerable, because this 35.3% speaks to those really that are still really in the job market looking for work, right? But the reality is there's the expanded jobless rate, which is a lot more frightening, because that includes unemployed people that are discouraged and have just stopped looking for work. That sits at 46.2%. So surely the work needs to also be encouraging those that have given up.
Yes, so we have to find ways to make it easier for people to search for work, and make it and also bring down the barrier so they can actually get into employment. So the problem that a young person has is that they need experience to be employed, but you have to have a first job. So the challenge they have is really a chicken and egg situation. They are asked, have you got work experience, even for the first job? And obviously they don't, because they haven't had a job yet. So what we do with the Youth Employment Service is it's an incentive program with the private sector, whereby the private sector is incentivized to give the young person their first job. So they get their first private sector job. Right. It goes for 12 months. They get a CV, they get a reference letter, all of that, which then means about 40 to 50% of them then get jobs later on, right, or the others can be helped into small business.
Yeah, let me just step in here, because I'm sorry, I'm running out of time, and I think that the next question actually helps you expand the point that you're making now, which is talk to us about the opportunities that YES is providing, right? The work that you're doing and how you're helping assist with all of those challenges.
Yeah, so YES is almost like a pilot program. We've got 1,900 companies who have joined, including the large ones. And those companies that help sponsor youth jobs get BE points, so they can improve their own BE scores. They employ black youth because under BE codes. And we've got about 70,000 youth already who've gone into jobs. And what we want to do is also expand the range of incentives to encourage more companies to join and be incentivized to employ young people. But so far, it's been a very successful experiment, and about 4 billion rand has gone to young people in their salaries through this program in the last 2.5 years, despite the recession and COVID. So we think more of this should be done, but it'll be helped even more if there was economic growth in the country.
Yeah. Well, for every young person that is placed in a job, it gives them a reason to wake up and gives them real meaning to their day. So continue the work, Ravi, and keep us updated as well on your progress. Ravi Naidoo is the CEO of the Youth Employment Service. So let's look at other work.